Oh god. Now I remember. Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and I'm here with a brand new movie review. And this movie review is going to be, no, not movie review, movie rant. This rant is going to be for the third installment in the franchise I am currently reviewing. And that rant is for none other than what I like to call the movie that forever ruined an animation studio and forever ruined a franchise. And both have never recovered from this whole incident ever since. And that is 2015's certain spin-off about the Minions. The third film in the Despicable Me franchise, third installment in the Despicable Me franchise. What's the plot of this? Well, apparently, ever since the dawn of time, the Minions have lived to serve the most despicable of masters, from the T-Rex to Napoleon. This easily distracted tribe has helped the biggest and the baddest of villains. Now join protective leader Kevin, teenage rebel Stuart, and lovable little Bob on a global road trip. They'll earn a shot to work for a new boss and the world's first female supervillain and try to save all mankind from annihilation. How's the film made? Well, Universal Illumination, before Despicable Me 2 had even come out, they immediately announced this movie in July 2012, when they were literally still working on DM2, that these guys would get their own film, and was going to be rushed for a 2014 release. Brian Lynch was asked to write the film's screenplay, and due to superior work writing for the theme park ride, Minion Mayhem at Universal Studios, Pierre Coffin became director again with newcomer Kyle Balda as the co-director, marking the first film in the franchise where Chris Renat is not a director. Eric Gillian returned for the film but was not an art director, as he was a character production designer for the film. Then in February 2013, a few months before DM2 released, Sandra Bullock joined the cast to voice Scarlet Overkill, with John Hamm joining 2 months later as her husband Herb Overkill. March 2015, Allison Janney was cast as Madge Nelson, and Pierre Coffin, the film's director, reprised his role as the Minions. And this is one of the films of the franchise when Coffin is a sole actor in the first film where Chris Renat doesn't serve as a director, but an executive producer, and Kyle Balda serves as a co-director along with Coffin. And Jennifer Saunders then joined the cast in order to voice Queen Elizabeth II. So eventually, Minions would debut in London on June 11, 2015, and then be released in the United States on July 10th. How are the reviews? Terrible! Compared to the first 2 films' great reviews, this movie received mixed reactions from critics. They did praise the animation, the voice acting, and score, but they hated the character development and the humor, which some calling unfunny and inappropriate. It was a financial success at the box office, despite that, because, hey, it's the Minions. The kids love the Minions. Of course it's going to make money. Made about nearly $1.2 billion worldwide, and was the 5th highest grossing film of 2015, the 10th highest grossing film of all time at the time, and the 2nd highest grossing animated film during its theatrical run. Well, thankfully not anymore. So as for my reaction, like you all saw, as you all know, I hated this movie a lot and considered it both the worst one of the franchise and the worst Illumination film ever made. This movie basically made Illumination and the franchise a joke to the animation industry, and they both have never recovered ever since then. The first two Despicable Me films were fantastic family fun, so while the idea for a prequel did strike me about the Minions strikes as pointless, the trailer was promising. But what promise the trailer had really was not even there in the film. Now, okay, Minions ain't without its good points. There are some awkward human character designs, the animation is excellent, with its rich bright colors, meticulously detailed backgrounds and imaginative visuals. The killer classic rock soundtrack is another plus, and it's very catchy and upbeat while not being too loud or obtrusive. And there is a hilarious opening sequence which the funniest Minions ever, and John Hamm does provide a few amusing but not much more than that moments. The voice cast deserved much better, and they didn't shine as much as they ought to, but Jeffrey Rush is a thoughtful narrator. John Hamm has some fun, and Peter Coffin does well characterizing the Minions. Regarding the rest of the voice cast, though, Sandra Bullock very much underplays her blandly written villain character. The film makes a complete waste of Michael Keaton. Everyone else suffers from not having too much to do or being underused. Like the Nelsons could have brought some parts of the story, but weren't used anywhere near enough and were quite bland. The story even suffers from being structurally thin, with very little narrative padded out to try and sustain the running time, which it did sometimes struggle to do, and rushed, and very little of the heart and charm that the first two Despicable Me films had. It also is incredibly predictable and has very little different and sets it apart from other origin stories and felt like an extended version of the trailer. The story's even simple too simple. In fact, basically the Minions are just looking for an evil master, because apparently that's what they've evolved to do from the beginning of time, serve the most evil master they can find, and so we spend an hour and a half that we'll never get back watching them trying to find their appropriately evil master. And the biggest main problem is the idea of a film about the Minions. While not a terrible idea on paper, it's still pointless and not a very good idea in general and overly poorly executed, because they were meant to be comic reliefs and not the main stars. Sure, they are the most popular characters in the franchise, going as far as having many films that dominating the soundtrack, even having earned a position as the official mascot of Illumination, but that's not the cast. And it doesn't mean they can hold up a film on their own. Sometimes obvious from the fact that they are incapable of speech, it would be the impression that its concept would be good on paper than anything else. Much like other comic relief movies, and unlike Penguins of Madagascar finding Dory, Puss in Boots, where the penguins, Puss, and Dory, despite being comic relief sidekicks, can work on their own as protagonists, to the point where they had more developed character, or as the movie focuses on them, rather than comic reliefs, compared to this movie. And another thing about the Minions. They do not talk English at all. They don't talk English. Their language is gibberish. If you're gonna have characters be your focus, they need to talk English so that people understand them. These guys don't talk that language. It's likely the only reason this film was even made was because the Minions became very popular in the franchise and was just made to cash in. Universal likely saw the box office hits of Despicable Me 2 and forced Illumination to milk this series just for money. And due to the infamous $600 million ad campaign surrounding the film's release, there's even some elements of the film that felt like they were added only to sell toys. Like, for instance, the opening montage of the Minions' previous bosses was heavily advertised in the film's marketing campaign, yet the scene itself only makes up about 10 minutes of the entire movie, so it just feels tackled on in order to sell toys of the Minions in different costumes. There's even heaps of continuity errors, as it completely contradicts previously established lore in the franchise. Like in the first film, you can clearly see there's a blueprint for a Minion implying that Gru and Dr. Nefario genetically manufactured and created them for the former himself. But in here, it appears they've actually been on Earth since the start of history during the beginning for opening credits, around for a long amount of time, and Gru just so happens to find them with the aforementioned blueprint and said start of film now, implying that Gru and Dr. Nefario actually cloned them for the former okay, I don't know what I'm saying, sorry. I think I said a part right, but the movie even changes Gru's backstory too. The flashback scenes in the first two movies imply that years of neglect from his mother and classmates or drove him to become a villain as an adult. But in this movie, it appears that he was always a villain or was at least interested in villainy from a young age, an issue that would carry over to Despicable Me 3, and soon the upcoming Minions The Rise of Gru. Even for an Illumination film, it has several atrocious attempts of humor that can be rather inappropriate even for the movie's target audience. Like the most infamously cringeworthy moment of the movie is a scene where Stuart hypnotizes street guards to strip down to their underwear and spank each other while singing hair in Minion language. And when the Minions disguise themselves as a female to sneak into the Tower of London, one of the Minions accidentally grabs the boobs. And there's another scene involving Stuart walking to a hot tub wearing nothing but a thong, while the camera fixates on his ass. Most of the humor that isn't fart jokes or uncomfortable moments, it's just surface level British stereotypes which many other movies have handled better. However, I will admit, there were some things I did like about this movie that prevents the score from being lower, such as while the characters themselves are somewhat underdeveloped and wasted, their voice actors give great performances in their roles. Specifically, despite Scarlet Overkill being a lame character, Sandra Bullock still did fine. John Hamm even did fine as Herb Overkill. Michael Keaton even did good as Walter Nelson, even if he was wasted. And Jennifer Saunders as Queen Elizabeth II also, who also was wasted. The score by Heitor Pereira is decent, even though it rehashes a lot of the first two movies' scores. And the soundtrack includes some classic 60s songs like The Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Some jokes even get a laugh out of me, such as one of the only few jokes that gets a laugh out of me is the "we were born with flippers" joke. I will admit that. That did get a laugh. I will admit. There's one scene involving a super villain family which is shown and which is easily the best scene in the movie, and the only really impressive part of the experience, here's how a prequel should have happened. This prequel should have really just been about, it could have been about how Gru met Dr. Nefario and stuff. These two prequels we're getting, this prequel could have been about how Gru met Dr. Nefario. That would have been a great twist. And they create the Minions, but then a little accident in the lab causes them to turn out how you know how they are. Just kind of idiotic and usually lack discipline. A little accident in the lab kind of causes them to end up looking like the jelly beans they are. You know them as. And then this second prequel, which is The Rise of Gru, we're getting I would have even loved to see a prequel about how the girls became orphans. I would have loved to see that. Too. Kind of would love to see how they became orphans, or just any one of those two concepts would have been way better prequels than just a spin-off about characters that just work better as comic reliefs. But that's just me. But, so, despite the good qualities I mentioned, Minions is pretty much a terrible example of a spin-off, and is what to make if you want to forever stain your studio a bad legacy and you will likely never recover from. But anyway, that's it for my review of Minions, and if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Minions, here's how I'm going to rank this movie. So overall, if you want to see more of this franchise, please just avoid this movie altogether and just go and watch DM3 if you are maybe still interested for more of this franchise, because this movie is not worth for your shelf or your money. And if you're wondering how I'm going to rank Minions, I'm going to give Minions a 4 out of 10. Well, there we go. Well, we officially have one more film to do in this franchise, and that's, of course, one I have not seen since I saw it in theaters, so this is going to be my second time seeing the next one that comes next. But yeah, I've got nothing else to say. I'm done talking about this spin-off, and I just need to end this right now. So anyway, that'll be it for this rant. Thank you all for watching, and if you like this and want to see more, and don't forget to subscribe to Movie Lover 120.